Well, hello, everybody, and hello to our special guests, Ben and Jessica Higgins. We are so excited to have you on the HelloPrenup podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, we are so excited. We've been planning all of our October schedules around this, so thank you guys for making the time. First and foremost, Ben, is your truck found? Everybody is concerned over here at HelloPrenup on whether or not you found your truck. Any update on that?
It is found. It might be Saturday that it's found.
Oh,
Somebody definitely, I don't know what they were doing inside of it, but the truck is not going to be recoverable. So I did the really sad thing where you show up to the impound, you walk to the back of the lot, and there is your truck with all of your stuff. Some of it still in it, most of it not. Emptied out in the back, kind of beat up with broken windows. So yes, it was found.
well, I'm so sorry for the results, and I hope it's a smooth transition to get you a better truck or something much more manageable.
Thank you. I hope so too.
Yeah, we were all very concerned about that, and I'm glad there was a bittersweet update to that. And Ben just mentioned that you guys had family in town. How was that?
Good. It was so fun. I was born and raised in Nashville and moved out here when Ben and I got engaged. And so whenever my family comes to visit, it's always the best. I'm really close. I have two brothers. I'm really close to my parents. So my youngest brother came out and stayed with us for a couple of days, and we had a great visit. It was really fun.
Yeah. Came out for a golf trip, and my golf clubs are in the truck as well. So things weren't working out how we wanted them to this week.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's pretty devastating. I don't know what's worse, losing the golf clubs or losing the truck, but I'm sorry for both of those losses.
Yeah.
Those are pretty hard to both lose. And speaking of, I know when you two met, Jess and Ben, you had a big choice, Jess, to move over to Denver from Nashville. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what was your mindset going into that and how you approached moving to Denver?
Yeah. So actually, we didn't even really have a conversation. When Ben talked to my dad about marrying me, my dad was like, please take her out of Nashville. I'd been in the South all my life. I lived in Nashville, then I went to school in Mississippi, then I moved back to Nashville. And so I'm so thankful my dad kind of pushed that decision, because I think it would have been a conversation that Ben and I had for a really, really long time, because I love Nashville and Denver. He loves Nashville and Denver. So it would have been a big pros and cons. And the fact that we were able to just I was like, okay, like, great. I'm excited to move to Denver. And I think it'll be I have friends that have moved away and some that have stayed when they got married. And for us, it's been really great to start our marriage kind of in our own city. His parents don't live here either. And so we've learned a lot of communication and just really depending on each other that I don't think we would have gotten to as quickly if we were around family.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like then that you guys had quite the long distance relationship for quite some time too, before moving to Denver. How did you manage that?
A lot of FaceTime. It was an interesting season because we communicated with our voices like all the time. And we had a couple of rules that I think really helped. We never left each other without having a trip planned for when we were going to see each other again. So as soon as we were gone from each other, we had something to look forward to, or at least we knew when it was going to happen, even if it was, I think probably the longest we went was 8 weeks at one point, which is a long time for us. The next, which I think people kind of get thrown off by, but we implemented a few months into our relationship, was we couldn't, to the best of our ability, we couldn't communicate or show sadness when we were leaving each other. Because, we do these quick trips where it'd be like 2 or 3 days. And, the first day is awesome. The second day is great. But then the third day you're leaving. So the second evening you're sad, and all day the third day you're sad. And it felt like it was just like a consistent like rhythm of being sad. And so we said, hey, you know what? Like, let's just try to implement to the best of our abilities the fact that now we're just going to talk about how excited we are to see each other again. That when we say goodbye, we're going to be like, can't wait to see you again. And if somebody needed to break down or somebody needed to get all upset, they could do that, maybe when they're away. But it added like an excitement and a joy to our relationship, because there wasn't this like maybe allowance for the space for us both to kind of be mourning, saying goodbye to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you guys focused on the positives of when we're going to see each other next instead of always just mourning the goodbyes. Because that is definitely the hardest part of long distance is it's you have less time together than you do when you're living separately. However, though, I've noticed in the past with friends and also personally that one of the blessings of long distance relationships is that you get to talk, which kind of forces you to communicate how you feel and all of those things that are weighing on your heart, and to open up and create space for that in a timely manner, like over the phone. Do you think that played a key role in how strong your relationship is today, based on the fact that you had to communicate very clearly and consistently early on?
I think so. I think a lot of it helped us honestly move a lot faster, which might sound counterintuitive, but I think I never had a doubt of his intentions with me. I don't think he ever had a doubt of his intentions, my intentions with him, because you're putting so much time and energy and also money into visiting, and like all of your resources are going into this relationship. Like any free weekend we had, we were visiting one another, or even during the week, we'd come and stay. And we were talking all the time, and it was a very emotional connection because it was just our voices. So even like the physical element didn't even come into play till almost a month into our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And already we were so attached to each other because we really had gotten to know each other's hearts. And so I think that there is like this huge level of trust between us and this huge emotional connection before we ever even saw each other in person. And I think that that's helped us tremendously now, where I've never questioned his intentions with me. Even if we're in an argument, I never think that he is trying to hurt me or he's communicating poorly or anything. And so I think that the setting those foundations right off the bat was super special for us.
Yeah. I mean, and even getting in the habit of getting to know what each other liked to communicate about, wanted to communicate about, I think was nice during that season, because we weren't just staying on the phone. At the beginning, we would stay on the phone for hours and talk about, I don't even remember what, and it's shocking that I did. But over time, like, you communicate about the important things. And I think one thing that I was really looking for in a partner and hoping for was somebody that would allow me the space to also still be myself and to enjoy some of the things I enjoy. And I'm an only child and I'm an introvert. And so to have, somebody that wasn't going to be like just wanting to hang out all the time on top of me, calling me. And like, so we got in a good rhythm too, where it was like, she respects what I need in my life boundaries, and I'm trying to do the same to her. And I think that was a good season for that, because I think we really got to know kind of what each other needed to click well, as we just were communicating over the phone all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. Jess, are you more introverted or extroverted?
Introverted.
Oh, so was it easier for you guys to like respect each other's boundaries when it was time to move in and go to Denver and be together a lot more?
I mean, yes, because neither of us pushed the other person to go out, probably to a fault where we would always, like, our friends push us to go out. Even for date nights, we would rather just stay at our house and eat in for the most part. So we've talked about, if we ever were to move, we can never move somewhere we don't know anyone, because we would never leave our house. Like, we both, we love the people that we love, and we do love being around people, but it is draining for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice. Yeah. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, to answer your question, it really was. It was good for us when we were together because, I didn't have, she's, 6 years younger than me. And so I was worried at that point, like, my goodness, she's like kind of fresh out of college. She wants to just party and go out. And it wasn't that way. So I was like, okay, I can do this. Yes. I feel good in this life. Yeah.
You got to pass. You didn't have to make all the effort to go out. That's awesome. Yeah. One of the things that I really respect about you, Jess, and I know you've discussed this on podcasts and openly in the past before, is and that you had a lot of boundaries when it came to physical connection with Ben, and you wanted to make those really clear up front. And I admire you so much for that. What advice do you have for anyone who's struggling to really bring up things that are really important to them in a relationship, or how to really express those types of boundaries before progressing into something more serious?
I think being you have to make decisions that you feel so confident in that you don't mind communicating them to other people. And if you have made a decision, or if you are kind of teetering on the edge of something, then and you don't feel comfortable talking to someone else about that, then it might just not be the best decision for you. Number one, I think I felt really confident in my choices. In my past dating, I'd seen how it had helped me either progress in a relationship or not progress in a relationship. And when I started talking to Ben, I was immediately drawn to him, and I knew there was going to be something serious. And so I wanted to make sure that I got this off the bat before we ever visited each other. And if that was something that he wasn't comfortable with or didn't respect about me, then it was kind of like, I mean, I don't know how to say it, except an easy way to weed out guys.
100%.
Because it is, whatever the decision is, it comes down to respecting you and in your hopes. And, we talked a lot about it. We talked about why. And it became a really good decision for us as a couple too. So, I think that you just have to be really confident in your choices. And when you're confident in them, then that communication comes a lot easier. But also I would say the earlier you can have the conversations, the better, because, it's really jarring to date someone for 3 months and then have that conversation. It's much easier to have it on the first or second date, even if you're like, is he gonna, what's he gonna think of me? But otherwise you're just kind of toying with someone, in my opinion.
I mean, I think from my perspective, yeah, it would have been maybe harder if I didn't really care about Jess as a human. I think that made it pretty easy. I think doing it early on is helpful, but I think there's like really good ways to bring it up. Like, I don't think you just like drop bombs on your expectation, your boundaries, and what's your red flags, like out of nowhere. I think there is still a conversation to be had. And I think that conversation is really important. And so, doing it and like in the midst of a conversation or talking about who you are as a person, it's part of the things that, at that point in your life kind of define you. And it's a part of your attributes and your character. And then as a partner in that, I think for me, there was a curiosity that came with understanding where Jessica's boundaries lie. And there was a curiosity about a lot of things about her. It wasn't just that, but it was like, what makes you you? Like, why are you making these decisions? What are you striving for? Like, what are you reaching for in life? And why do you feel like this is so important to you? And that kind of thread goes through a lot of dating when you're, finding somebody that you love and you want to spend your life with, is keeping that curiosity open to say, tell me more. Like, this, if you're very important to me, I want to know more about this. And so not running away from it or not being like, this is wild, this is crazy, like I'm out. It was like, no, tell me more. And once we had a conversation about it, I was on, I got on the same page. We didn't expect COVID to happen and push us 3 years worth of engagement, but things don't always work out how you want them to.
I mean, hey, in the vein of you really care about someone, you were able to prove it. And I think that's really awesome. So COVID's quite the blessing because of that.
To Ben's point, I didn't just randomly bring it up in conversation. It was before I came to visit him for the first time. So it was very like natural of like, okay, well, this is a little bit about me if we're going to discuss sleeping arrangements or whatever. Right. So I think that exactly what he said, you don't want to scare them by on the first date being like, also, this is a choice, whatever. But yeah, I think when the time's right, just being honest with whomever it is, and they're going to respect you more, and it's going to help you in the long run too.
Yeah, I think that's super admirable. And I love that you mentioned the first or second date. Do you think it would have been as easy for you to bring up if, let's say, you and Ben were meeting for the first time in person before having all the long distance conversations and before you're getting ready to fly out and you've really screened him as a serious candidate? Do you think it's still doable, or would it have gone as smoothly if you were to bring it up on that first date in person?
That's really an interesting question. Probably not, because I feel like for me and the way I dated, it probably wouldn't have been a conversation on the first date. It would probably have been, third or fourth. And so I think kind of backtracking, I would say instead of blanketing the first or second date, it would be as early as it feels natural. Not forcing it, but also not waiting until, again, like 3 months in and you're like, oh, wow. Okay. So we're, what is this now? So what do you think?
I mean, I think you go both directions. I mean, when you're and I know we're speaking specifically about, Jessica's choices and, kind of how she entered into our relationship, but there was things about me that she needed to kind of try to understand and accept, and that weren't maybe ideal or like things that she expected in a partner. And I think that the common denominator there is it's going to go fine as long as you enter in the conversation wisely yourself. Like you do it, you try to communicate it in the best way possible. And these are good. This goes throughout the gambit of life choices as you're entering into a partnership with somebody. And then the second is if your partner really cares about you, he or she will want to listen and want to understand. And so it doesn't really matter the context or when it happens. I think it comes down to what is your partner's intentions? And yeah, it's going to get weird. Like relationships are awkward at times and relationships are weird. And there's a lot of hard conversations and a lot of ones that are uncomfortable. And, we could go through past relationships to your choices when it comes to intimacy, to your choices on faith, to your choices on finances. And all of these conversations, there's never like a great time, I don't think. And so it's, do you feel comfortable enough with this person for them to respect you enough to hear you out? And if so, then it can happen whenever.
Absolutely. And I respect you for hearing her out and the mindset that you were in while she was bringing up a very vulnerable topic, especially for girls. I think when we're going to visit a guy for the first time and you're going to stay with him, the fact that you were able to bring it up and receive it, Ben, so well, I think is super admirable. I would love to know more about how you guys do handle any situations of conflict. We know, especially over here at HelloPrenup, that marriage is awesome, but it's also very challenging. And one of the things our listeners wanted to know was, how do you handle conflict and or resolve conflict between the two of you?
Therapy. We do go to couples therapy when it's good and when it's bad. That's, an important, I think, thing for us. I think we started when things were like, hey, we aren't communicating well, but then it's a consistency to go even when things are going well so that you don't, always kind of pull the alarm and say, we got to go to therapy. It's just a good rhythm for us. And it's something that we feel like is a good choice for us. It has been. That's one way. I'll let you speak to the rest.
Yeah. We handle conflict very differently, and through therapy, we've realized a lot of it is from how we grew up. I've personally never had conflict with my parents, my brothers, my friends. I am conflict averse. Like, I feel like if we bicker, like when we would date and bicker, I thought we were breaking up. Like I went straight to like, he hates me kind of thing. And for him, like, it's a little bit more natural. He's not as passive as I am. And so he'll bring things up right away where I want to like wait and figure out the exact right way to lay something out so that it isn't a fight. It's more of a conversation. And that never has gone well for me. And then if we have had a fight, I've had a really hard time getting over it. So I think understanding where the other person comes from with like how they handle conflict is super, super helpful because he's not picking a fight just to pick a fight. He just wants to squash it and it be over. So whereas I would rather keep a list and then like every quarter go over all of the things that have happened and make it.
You would never go.
You're my kind of girl. I love that. Yes.
Yeah, I'd probably make a list and then just sit on it actually.
Yeah. So how do we do it now? I mean, I think we're getting a good like in between. I'm maybe less aggressive with like why are you doing this? Why did you say this? This is how it made me feel. Like maybe there's different language I can use, knowing that it's not going to like jar her and throw her to like, and I say this because I love my wife very much, but it's true. Like if I wanted to, because of her risk averseness, like I would just always get my way. Like I could get my way in any situation because I could just put my fist down and be like, this is what's happening. And she'd be like, okay, that's fine. And that's not fun for me. It's not fun for her. It's not good for our relationship. And so we found like a good way to say, okay, hey, I'm upset right now. And she probably knows if I were to say that, like, hey, what I really want to do right now is just like really tell you how frustrated I am, but I'm upset right now. And this is how this made me feel. Why did you do this? Or why do you keep doing this? And because it hurts. And then she doesn't feel so jarred. She knows that I'm holding, some emotion in, and we can start to work through it. And I think on her end, the compromise has been like, let's start approaching some of the things that, are bothering us more quickly. Let's not push them aside. Let's actually deal with them and know that we're going to be okay in the end. I'm the first person in her life she's ever had conflict with. That's a really weird place to be, as also her husband is. I'm the best and worst thing to ever happen to her at times. And I got to carry that well, I guess.
He's the best thing to happen to me. In all, like, I could have gone my whole life and never gotten in a fight with someone. And we don't even like fight, but just confronting conflict has made me stronger in all aspects of my life. It's made me more confident to voice my opinions in all aspects of my life. I think it's made me a better friend and a better daughter and a better sister. So I'm really thankful that I married someone who challenges me, but in a constructive way. Like, he's never trying to tear me down. Like he said, he never, like, he really could walk all over me, and he doesn't. And that shows a lot of respect and restraint.
I love that you guys have figured out your rhythm. And I think it's amazing that therapy helped you do that. One of the things that we always talk about at HelloPrenup is find that common ground, literally, of where's the space that you can do that? Because with the space comes the comfortability to open up the dialogue and figure out the how. So I think that's awesome that you guys were able to do that. It sounds like once you became married, it was a little bit easier to find that perfect rhythm. Was it always this way? Or were you still a little like conflict avoidant when you guys were just dating, Jess?
I was. And the way that we dated, everything was so romantic because we dated long distance.
Yeah.
It was like you'd fly in for a weekend and go on these 3 amazing dinner dates, and you'd make every day so special. And so it's hard to really get in a fight when you're like, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. I'm so excited. And every weekend that we dated, it was so fun. So there really wasn't even like there was nothing really for us to even bicker or argue about when we were dating. So yeah. I was able to stay pretty comfortable. But yeah, then once I moved here, we were in the same city, and like, not that the romance went away, but it wasn't like these magical weekends. And, it's a Tuesday and we wake up and have to go to work instead of going up into the mountains and exploring. And so I had to figure out like, oh, he still likes me, even though we're not doing those things. But no,
we are still good at dates.
We are still good at dates, but it's not the same as the long distance was.
Yeah. And now you guys get to have dates in one house on a Tuesday because you live together, and pro introverts, we don't have to go out. So that's nice.
Jessica likes to, every once in a while, fairly frequently, tell me when we get in bed at night and we turn on a movie, she rolls over and she goes, "Isn't marriage awesome?" And now I know what comes next. And I said, "Why is it awesome?" And she goes, "Because you get to have a sleepover with your best friend every night." And it is sweet. And she does feel that way, I think.
I really do. It's so cool.
That is so sweet. Sleepover. That's how you know you found your person. For everyone listening, if you don't look at your person every single night and say, "Isn't this awesome? We get to have a sleepover forever." I think you guys have figured it out. I love that so much. Yeah. It is really sweet. One of the things that I've noticed about the two of you is you're both really passionate about the work that you do. Jess, as an esthetician and your perfect glowing skin, it's really, really obvious you're very passionate about that and helping people. And the same vein, Ben, everything you do touches helping people. How do you think that passion for your individual lives has translated into your marriage?
It's a good question. And if I were to answer it just off the cuff, I think part of the reason, and I appreciate you saying that, would be that is kind of how I've always believed to find my purpose is what am I most passionate about? maybe what makes me the most angry in the world, and then what solutions are out there to try to solve them or work towards fighting injustice at different levels. And so like I am very passionate about my work because there's a purpose behind it. And I feel like it's a calling because of my faith. I believe it's also a calling because I think when I'm passionate about something, there's more joy to it. In my marriage, I think honestly, Jess has made it very easy on me to be passionate about that because I told her when we were dating often, I was like, I'm not going to get married. And I was pretty confident in this statement. If I think it's going to make my life worse, I don't see the point. If it's going to make my life worse, I don't want to do this thing. But if we can figure out how to try to make ourselves or make our lives better and be a good partner to each other, then this thing's going to be beautiful. And we can make it work. So I think maybe that's how we enter into our marriage is laying both of our lives down for each other's. And then also believing that, when Jess sacrifices for me, she just knows intrinsically, she doesn't think about it. There's no scoreboard. There's no, man, Ben's going to do this next time. It's just like, Ben wants to do this for me too. And so as a result, like, I know she's got my back and I know she cares. And so I'm passionately one to care about her too.
Yeah. And with our individual passions, I think that we both get very fulfilled by the work that we do. And we're two whole people separately of one another. And then I feel like we're able to take better care of one another when we are filled up from our individual things too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely, I've noticed it in both of the work that you do. You're both very supportive of each other openly, even when it comes to work or anything relationship integrated, especially Ben, whenever you're in Jess's videos or you're doing her nighttime routine with her, anything like that. It's super admirable. And we love that. And we're big fans of the two of you being so passionate with each other. One of the things that people wanted to know, especially from our listenership as well, is what's the worst relationship advice you've ever received, especially as a married couple now?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people being like, why are you doing this? Marriage is really bad and hard and it's ugly. And I'm like, goodness gracious. And then I got into it. I'm like, no, I mean, I can see where it's really hard. And I respect marriages that get really hard at times. And I really respect marriages that get really hard at times. And if it's a healthy, safe space, like they get out of it. I believe I've seen many couples become stronger through that. I'd say the worst advice I was ever given was, don't go to bed angry. I think I've always felt weird about that. And there's many a nights where sleeping on it helps. It could be a bad day. I could be a little tired. I could just be grumpy. Maybe there's chaos in my life that Jessica doesn't even know about because I don't even know how to communicate it. And sometimes I just need to go to bed. Sometimes I just need to get a fresh night's sleep. The difference there is if it's still bothering me the next day, then it's something that I want to speak with her about. But sometimes I don't even remember what I was upset about. And then it's like, well, there's no point to this then.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some bad advice I got is, and this is going to sound trivial when I say it, but confront him if he golfs too much. I've had a lot
I don't ever remember that. Who gave you that? That person needs to get out of your life.
Okay. I talk to 8 to 10 women a day at my job. And a lot of them are like, don't you just hate that he golfs? You've got to tell him right off the bat that you don't want him to be gone for that long on a weekend and blah, 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 blah. I think it's very healthy for him to have something he's passionate about that I am not a part of, that he can go and have guy time. Maybe it's the introvert in me, but him being gone for 6 hours on a Saturday does not bother me. And I know how happy he is when he comes back and how much it fills up his cup. And I know that if I had a hobby that took me away for 6 hours, he would be so fired up for me. And I think it's okay to have hobbies that are separate from one another. Kind of like what Ben said earlier about our jobs. It gives us a lot to talk about. So
No, I love that. And She is a keeper, Ben. I know you already know that, but she's pro golf. Every day she's looking at you saying, "Isn't this amazing?" And your biggest supporter. That's amazing.
I'm very good. I got really good.
That's
I have
amazing.
a lot of issues. So at least I have those three things going for me. There's a lot of things that I'm sure we could sit and he could say, well, blah, blah, but
No, but let's also be clear. I golf maybe once a week.
Yeah, maybe. It's not that often.
It's not like I'm out there every day. I would love to be, but life doesn't allow that.
It's funny.
I use that more as an example of like, you don't have to do everything together. And I think a lot of married couples feel like they do, like they have to have the same friends and the same hobbies. And I think it's healthy not to.
Yeah, I completely agree. Segmenting or segueing a little bit in the vein of being supportive and, being a great listener and trying to understand the other person. One of the topics that our listeners really struggle with discussing is finances. Because you guys have such strong communication skills and you're both very thoughtful in your approach and you have so much trust in each other, how do you manage financial conversations? And is it tough for the two of you?
Jessica looks at me.
He's the finance guy.
Oh, perfect. We're looking at you, Ben.
Yeah.
When we got serious and when we got engaged, we started to like broach finances. Where do each other sit? We had talked about debt before that, kind of what debt exists in our lives, and but it wasn't until we got engaged that we really started talking about, hey, this is what I have and this is what you have, and then it was trying to figure out how we did this together. But again, a theme of our life too, and something I think is important, is having our own individual like lanes. We are a partnership and we come back to each other, and she's the closest person in my life, but we both run very different lanes at times, and we both have very different lives that we're working on. And again, I think that's been really healthy for us. It brings intrigue and interest into our relationship. And then it also allows me to get really excited about her individual lane, and she gets really excited about mine. And so what we do is we have a shared account that we both put money into. And then we both have our own individual accounts as well that we can kind of manage and do with what we need and want. And so we kind of have the shared pot that goes towards all of our shared expenses in life, and that I do manage that. Jessica has no interest in touching it. At the beginning of each month, I do tell her, hey, I'm balancing out kind of where we're at in life. And if you want to see it, great. Most of the time, she's like, no, you got it.
I really trust it.
Yeah. And so I do, that's kind of my role, and I enjoy it though. Like that's something that I like to do. I find a lot of interest in. The other part of this, which is probably also a beautiful characteristic of my wife, is I have typed up like what I have and what we have now together, and what I've invested into, or kind of where our different assets of ours exist, into a sheet. And then it has the best phone number to call if anything were to happen to me. And it has the lanes, to kind of go through. My dad implemented this with my mom. He kind of was sick my whole childhood. And so when he would kind of look like things weren't going to turn good for him, he had this little blue folder that he would always hand her, and it would have updated everything from, bank accounts to investment accounts to whatever existed. And then she just could open it up and start calling, and all that was available to her. So I did that for Jessica. I doubt she's ever looked at it, even though she's had it, because it makes her sad to think about. But if anything were to happen, that gets updated. And so she does have access to that. And so she at least knows that, if something were to go wrong, she's not like trying to figure out what everything is.
I know where the sheet is, but I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
I think that's totally fair. Okay, so I have so many questions. The first is, I heard we did I'll show you mine if you show me yours when it came to finances after we were engaged. Before engagement, did you have any insight into where each other stood financially, or any conversations related to it at all?
Yeah. So a little insight into me before we got engaged. I was super young. I was on my second job out of college. It was it was an entry level sales job. So I was living basically paycheck to paycheck. I did like the little cash envelope method. Didn't have a house. I had a car that was my high school car. I didn't have much. I had a savings account from all of my high school and college jobs. And so I didn't have a lot. Ben had more than I did. I kind of knew like the assets he had. I figured that he was where he was financially, but we never really had to have that conversation because like he said, we had the debt conversation. So we knew what we brought to the relationship or what we didn't bring to the relationship. And then, I mean, there wasn't really much else to talk about. When I moved out here, I brought 2 suitcases. I sold my car and I didn't have anything else, which was great. And so we kind of like built a life together. So I think that's where it happened later on in life when we both had things to talk about when it came to money and assets and finances.
She brought 2 suitcases, but we average about 5 Amazon packages a day right now. So she's
It's for work.
She's just refilling. She's just refilling what she had.
It's for my studio.
But yeah, I mean, I think I was more interested in the debt, just based on past relationships. I think I guess maybe to say it clearly, like I didn't care how much she had. I just also wanted to understand how much making up we were going to have to try to do. So I didn't care if she came to the relationship with $0. Like I wasn't, I love her, but we would have had to have some really hard conversations if she's like, hey, I'm X amount in debt. And I'm going, but you're 2 years out of college. Like, why? Like, what are you spending money on? Like, what is your habits that are causing you to do this? And that would have maybe been more concerning for me. And also, is she willing to maybe change some habits? Because we can't afford to do that for the rest of our lives. And debt is meaningful. So early on, debt was more interesting to me. And then once we entered into the relationship, then it was, okay, how do we build together as partners?
Amazing. So I heard we entered the relationship like with that timestamp of, here's what we have. I'm okay with it. You're okay with it. But then also the money habits. So like, what are our spending? I think they're called money languages. How do you guys have similar money languages? Like, is one of you more conservative and you like to save, or is somebody more prone to spending? Are you guys very similar?
I would say both of us want to live below our means. I spend more than he does. Like I'll buy a pair of shoes or a new top or something like that more often than he would. A lot of the packages I get are from my office, but I do get more packages than him. Ben has never been a spender. He does laundry very often. Had the same pair of underwear since high school.
Yeah, I don't buy anything.
He doesn't buy anything.
In fact, my truck and my golf clubs are the 2 things I've probably bought in my life.
Yeah.
And they're now gone. So my point is proven. Don't buy stuff. It just gets taken away. It's not ours to begin with. Yeah, Jessica definitely spends more than me, but I think it's also just part of what, like her routine in life is different for me. Like I can wake up and wash my face with hand soap and go out for the day. Like she needs some like care. Most women do. Like they need to spend a little bit more than probably a guy can or needs to. So I think that plays into it. But she doesn't spend wildly, and I've never felt like, my goodness, she's spending so much money, we got to talk about it. However, if things get tight, right? So we're in a really weird season right now. We just got our kitchen redone. We're getting new windows. Our house is being repainted. My truck gets stolen. I have no golf clubs. Like this is a big month for us, unexpected month. And so what we'll do is, hey, let's tighten it up a bit. Like, let's not go to dinner for a while. Or, hey, if you're out and about, like let's try to get rid of a few things for a few months until we can get our feet back underneath us. And then, we're back off and going. And so we budget that way a lot. I do keep a budget, but it's fairly liquid, in terms of, what we're spending and why we're spending it. But I think Jessica said it best. We both very much desire to live way below our means. One, because, I've never seen that spending a lot of money brings me any more joy than not. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. And then this may sound like a really obvious question, but who did you guys just make a joint decision that Ben, you would be like the CFO of the relationship because you were more invested in it literally, or Jess, were you up for the position?
No, I was never nominated. It was not a question. He understands it better than I do. He's been doing it longer than I do. He understands where the money should go, what's going to set us up for like the future for us two, and what's going to set our future kids up. Especially because both of us we own our own businesses. And so we don't have like a 401k, or we have to come up with our own retirement plan. And that's something that he knows a lot more than I know, because, the goal is to not work forever. And so
if she wanted to be nominated, I was more than willing to give her the job. This was not my saying, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, but you would have come up behind me and been like, what in the heck is going on? We would have like our money in crazy places.
Yeah. She didn't nominate herself, and I didn't nominate her. And it is something I enjoy. And I remember early on when we got married, there was often I would sit down and be like, hey, you want to come look at this? You want to come see this? This is what I'm doing. And she'd be like, no, I'm good. And so it was like, well, I'm okay. Well,
That's right.
I'm just going to keep going forward, and you're trusting me with it. And it is a big, in all seriousness, it's a big responsibility. There is a lot of future planning there. I'm very thankful that she trusts me with it. It does feel empowering to me that she trusts me with it. But she never wanted it.
But I also think it's because I've watched his spending habits for 5 years, and I'm like, he does not spend one single dollar. Like, even on food, which is I'll do the grocery shopping. He would buy, like, when we were dating, he would make cowboy chili, which is rice and beans, and keep it in his freezer for a whole week, and that's what he would eat. And not for any reason except like I think it's just the convenience. It's not like an intentional decision. So when I saw his spending habits, I'm like, perfect. This is who I want to have my money. Like, this is great.
Yeah, Indiana taught me well, I think. Small town Indiana, you live as simply as you possibly can with still finding some things that you love and enjoy. And I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, it's been great.
She still gets her nails done. She's fine.
Perfect. As long as we don't have to sacrifice all the self-care, amazing.
No, he's never said anything about how I spend my money in a negative way. So.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you guys have a working cadence and it works for you guys. That's awesome. Okay. I have some lightning round questions for you guys. And is it Jess or is it Ben? It's sort of like, who's the better ex or who's whatever. And then after that, we're all set. Are you guys ready for the lightning round questions?
Of course.
Ready.
All right. Who's the better listener?
Ben. Did you point at me or yourself?
You.
Oh.
Okay. Who's the better communicator?
Ben, for sure.
Who's the first to reconcile in an argument?
I say I'm sorry first.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think Ben wants to get it over with faster.
Yeah, but I think Jessica is more willing to try to reconcile. Sometimes, though, her sorry comes with but we're not done talking about this yet. Like, you're not getting out of this. But she does want to heal hurt space.
That's awesome. Who's the better texter?
Me.
Yeah, definitely.
Why? What?
Not with anyone else. I think we both take like 3 to 5 business days to reply to text messages.
I think that's normal. I think that's marriage.
Yeah.
It's different. Who's better at planning dates?
That's tough. We've both kind of hit some home runs, and yeah. I mean, dates with us are very easy. Like we get very excited to go on dates.
Yeah.
And we get so excited because we get to get showered and dressed up. Here's the caveat to our relationship. We do it we go on dates quite a bit. Like I think we go on dates quite regularly. But when we shower and get cleaned up, our dog gets nervous that we're leaving. That's how much little we do it. Because he recognized that when we're both getting cleaned up at the same time, something's happening that he will not like.
Yeah.
The FOMO sinks in really hard. Yeah.
But I think we alternate planning dates pretty well. And we've both done some really fun ones.
Here's a good follow up to that. One of the things that we've done together that's helped us is we've built a restaurant list that when we see a cool restaurant that we really want to go to in any city, we write it down. And so when we have a date night, we're like, hey, Wednesday night, we haven't done anything in a bit. Let's go on a date. It's not like, hey, Ben, you plan it, or hey, Jess, you plan it. It's like, let's look at our list and pick something together. And so we're not going, where do you want to eat? Where do you want to? It's like, no, we're gonna knock off something that we've wanted to try.
I love that. That is brilliant, because the never ending question of what's for dinner? I don't know. What do you want?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are we calling in? I don't know. Well, that's great.
It's just done.
Yeah.
Who's the better cook?
Ben.
Jessica's really good at a few things. She's not a bad cook. Like she knocks it out of the park with some dishes. I would say I enjoy it more. And so I want to spend more time making the dish flavorful or cooked well. But also I work from home. And so at 4:00, I can get up from my desk and go into the kitchen and play music and just like pour a cocktail and cook and have a blast with it. Where she gets home at like 5:36 and it's like, what can we do as soon as possible kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when she has time, she's good.
Thanks, babe.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Last and final question before we jump. Who's your favorite contender on Golden Bachelor so far?
I know who yours is. Why are you thinking about this?
I know. I love Jerry. Gary. Gary. It's spelled Jerry, right?
It's spelled Jerry, but it's Gary.
Gary. I love him so much that I just want him to be happy. It just makes me sigh thinking about it. But I love Teresa.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm a Teresa fan. I was a Nancy fan. I didn't think Nancy wanted to be there though at the end. But I would go Teresa, and I think Gary's awesome. And I think this show is going to save the franchise. And I'm so thankful and happy about that.
Oh, for sure. And we're rooting for you, Teresa, if you're listening. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to meet with us today. We really appreciate you being on the show. If folks want to get in touch with you or they want to learn more about you, where's the best place to go?
My Instagram is at @JessClarke_. And that page has the links to all of my other pages where you can find me. So it makes it easy.
Yeah, you can go to thebenhiggins.com. benhiggins.com was taken. The Ben Higgins sounds very narcissistic. In some ways it is because I have my own website. But that website has everything. And then if you like coffee and you want to give back, I work on a project called Generous Coffee, and you go to generouscoffee.com and buy coffee, and 100% of the profits are donated to nonprofits. And so you can do that too. But thebenhiggins.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for your time today. We really appreciate you. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back soon.